welcome to everyone this morning. We really want to let you know that we appreciate you for taking out the time on this Saturday morning to join us and learn how to buy your home in 2021, because we all know that it's time to own it. Let me introduce you to a lady with a phenomenal story that's going to start our morning out this morning. She has 27 years in the real estate industry. She is a salon owner of the Salon One Center. She is a property manager. She's licensed in insurance, a notary public. She also is a friend and confidant, a mentor to many of us, and she's a mother of 8, as well as the MBA and founder and owner of Take a Look Real Estate Brokers. I'd like to present to you Theresa Barron.
Hey, everybody. Hey, this is Theresa Barron, and I want to welcome you also to Take a Look Real Estate Brokers. We've been doing this webinar since October of 2017, and we have had phenomenal success with this webinar. You know, our whole goal today is to really inspire you and to bring you to a mindset that says you can do it. And you're going to find out why we say you can do this thing. So anyway, we're going to teach you the ABCs of the home buying process, and we're going to give you real estate in Columbus, Ohio, and even beyond, A to Z. This is not only for first-time home buyers, but it's also for the people who are re-entering the market, who may have owned a home in the past and found out that, you know, home buying, it's more complicated than just owning the home. Like, for instance, when you get into the wrong mortgage or you get into the wrong property and markets go down, sometimes people actually lose those homes, and we've got to bring it all back around. So I want you to get started. We're bringing to you the best that Columbus has to offer with our It's Time to Own It. We're going to start this out with, let me just get to the screen, with a video that should inspire you. Let's see here. And it's called Keeping Them Poor with Robert Kiyosaki. I want you to pay close attention. If you can't hear it or you have any trouble, then what we will do is send you a copy of the recording by request in your email. So take a listen.
Do the rich people cringe and say, don't tell them that, Robert?
Yes. Don't tell people what you know. Right. Keep them poor. My father was the head of education, PhD, all that stuff. I go home and ask him, said, why don't we learn about money in school? And he looked at me and says, because the government doesn't let us teach that subject. The government tells us what we can teach and what we can't teach. And I thought that was strange. And I said, but aren't we going to school to learn about money? He says, no, your job is to get a job. I said, but you get a job to earn money. He goes, no, you're supposed to just get a job. I went, no. Isn't the purpose of a job to earn money? He goes, you're correct. I said, so why don't I just learn about money? I can skip the job part, you know? And he got flustered and he said, if you want to learn about money, why don't you ask your best friend's father about money? And I said, why? That's Mike. So I asked him. He says, because Mike's father is an entrepreneur. And I said, what are you? He says, I'm an employee. I'm a government employee. And I went, oh, what's the difference? He says, the difference is an entrepreneur must know about money, or they're no longer entrepreneurs. And he says an employee doesn't have to know anything about money, because the government will take care of them, the company will take care of them. So I'm all confused. But I took my dad's advice and I trundled over to Mike's father's office and knocked on his door and I said, hey, I'm here, 9 years old. Teach me about money. He says, beat it, kid, you know. But that's where the story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad started. And finally, through persistence, my rich dad started teaching me about money on one condition. And that condition was he would never pay me. He says, the moment I pay you, you think like an employee. He says, that's the trap. Entrepreneurs work for free. And now I'm 9 years old, my head's going cracking in half. He says, you never want a paycheck. You understand that, kid? I said, okay, I got it. And he says, well, how do I make money? He says, that's what entrepreneurs figure out. It's like, so how do I learn about money? So he would just break out a Monopoly game board. So I would work for free. I'd pick up cigarette butts, and he had hotels and restaurants, and I would clean and do menial tasks. And as I got older, I started getting into office work and marketing and accounting, and I was an apprentice basically, but I always worked for free. And he would teach me about money. But the way he taught me about money was playing Monopoly. And finally one day I got upset. I said, well, when are you going to teach me about money? He says, what do you think we're doing? We're playing Monopoly. He goes, no. What do you think we're doing? We're playing Monopoly. He says, what do you think we're doing? So I don't know. I'm teaching you about money. And then that's when, you have one green house. He says, there's many formulas for great success in money. There's thousands of them, but one of the best ones is found on the game of Monopoly. It still is today. 4 green houses, 1 red hotel. I said, what? He says, one of the greatest ways to acquire great wealth is playing Monopoly in real life. 4 green houses, 1 red hotel. Well, is that all there is? He goes, that's it. And he says, what do you think I'm doing? And I went, I don't know. So then he took me out and he showed me his green houses. And 10 years later, when I was 19, I was now in school in New York, and I come back to Hawaii, and Rich Dad had bought the biggest piece of land smack dab in the middle of Waikiki Beach. And when you go to Waikiki Beach today, you'll see the Hyatt Regency Hotel. That was his hotel.
Just like the game of Monopoly.
Just like the game of Monopoly.
Acquired assets, and they became bigger assets.
He just kept what's called an assemblage, because that property wasn't that big at the time. So he had to buy out all the small guys. Because Waikiki was a little dirtwater little town. So he'd buy out this shop owner and buy that shop owner. And it took him a while, but he finally assembled this large piece of property. And then he and Hyatt put up this giant hotel. It just sold for $800 million. So that's how I learned about money. I've had financial crashes. I've had people stab me in the back, but they're all good because I grow from it. That's spirituality. Right. People who are afraid of making mistakes, like they teach in school, they don't ever grow. Because spirituality is there's good and there's bad, there's right and there's wrong, there's up and there's down. Most people only want to be right. They only want to be positive. Well, you can't have that. That's not reality. Well, I wasn't poor by most people's standards, but I came from a family with a poor attitude, if you know what I mean. Because rich, poor, middle class, poverty starts with a fundamental attitude. Poverty is passed on. It's taught in your families. And middle class is taught in families. And so the people right now who are sitting at home, who are struggling financially or worried about money or unhappy, they may be making a lot of money, but unhappy with what they're doing, it was probably taught to you. Your super ego was taught, get a job, work hard, or you'll never be rich, or the rich are evil, or whatever. The school system will never teach you about money. The school system was designed to teach you to be an employee, which is important, or a doctor or a lawyer, a specialist, but never about money. And what most people lack is real business knowledge, like accounting, like debt, like taxes. You got to know that stuff, but they don't teach it in school to anybody. So, and then when people ask me, how did your rich dad learn this when your poor dad, a PhD, didn't? And the answer is very simply, my rich dad, who's my best friend's father, his father died when he was 13. So his rich dad had this family business at 13 to run. So he had to drop out of school, which was his blessing. There's blessings, and sometimes a blessing doesn't look like a blessing, but it turned out to be a blessing. And then his teachers became his bookkeeper, his accountant, his attorney, his banker, his real estate agents. So he has what I call real teachers, not these fake teachers in school. You see, most teachers in school, they're out of ethics. They teach subjects they themselves don't practice. I asked the teacher, I said, I'm in my 3rd year of calculus now. It was called strength of materials. I said, am I ever going to use this stuff? He goes, no. I said, why do you teach it? He says, because I get paid. I said, do you ever use it? He goes, no. And that's why, you have to, in life, one of the things I suggest to people, you got to find a real teacher versus a fake teacher. And a fake teacher is somebody who doesn't do what they teach. And a real teacher is doing what they teach every day. So my accountants, my attorneys, they're in it every single day. And that's how I learn, because every day I'm solving problems in my business. So I have accountants and attorneys and bankers and all these people on speed dial because I'm solving problems with my team.
I see you giving this knowledge out, and
Yeah.
do the rich people cringe and say, don't tell them that, Rob?
Yes. Don't tell people what you know.
Right.
Keep them poor. But unfortunately, the poor, as was in the Bible, I'm not real religious, the poor will always be amongst us because it starts up here.
Right, it's that fear mentality.
It's in their words, and the words become flesh. Again, I'm not really religious. I flunked out of Sunday school also. But when they say I can't afford it or I can't do that, they go down. They become what they say. My PhD dad, he says, what do you think I am, made of money? I can't afford that. And my rich dad would say, that's why he's poor. Poor people say, I can't afford it, I can't do that, I don't have time. Because it's an escape. It's an escape, you know what I mean? It's easy to say, I can't afford it.
And your rich dad used to say what instead of, I can't afford it?
How can I afford it? How can I do that? What would it take, or why should I do that? He says a question opens the mind, a statement closes the mind. See, when you say, I can't afford it, your mind shuts down, and you become what you say. Rugby is a team sport, but so is soccer. The rules are different. And other people are golfers. They play by themselves. And so everybody's different. So my game financially is business, number one. Second is real estate. So what I say to young people is, you find your game.
So that's some really, really good information. I hope you guys had got the message with regards to what Robert Kiyosaki was saying. He is the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And when I tell you that his thinking has changed the lives of millions and millions of people, just teaching that our educational system does not teach us financial literacy. And so what happens is that people learn financial literacy from their families. So since most of our families are not rich and do not understand what the wealthy understand, it just keeps us poor. So let me tell you who we are. This is Take a Look Real Estate Brokers. And this company was started almost 10 years ago. Combined in terms of when we started, we actually started 27 years ago. That's when we started in the real estate business, and owning real estate actually started about 31 years ago. We do everything real estate from residential to light commercial to lots of rehabbing, just everything you can think about in the real estate business. We pretty much do it. And we're located at 2957 Stelzer Road. That's located at the corner of Stelzer and McCutcheon. It is just 1 mile from Easton. So we are very much in the Easton area. And just wanted to let you know that, so that in case you want to stop by and just have a cup of coffee, you know where to find us. We are a community real estate company. It's very important to us that we impact the lives, have a positive impact on the lives of our community. And we believe that neighborhoods with ownership, people take a lot more pride in their community and their neighborhoods when they own it. So we are all about making home ownership a real opportunity for anybody who decides that they want to be a homeowner. And it really doesn't matter where you start or where you are. It only matters that you get the information and that we begin to apply it and where you land. And our goal is to make it possible for you, to inspire you, and to show you that we are all human beings, and we can all do this thing. If anybody did it, you can do it too. Now, we do a lot more than real estate and community financial education. We also deal with things that impact our finances, like tax preparation and insurance. These things all impact. It impacts your estate. It impacts how much money you have left over at the end of the day. And we just want you to know that we're here to support. We also have 2 notaries and one paralegal on our team. So there is a lot we can do to assist you. Now let me move to the next slide. Okay, listen, in Columbus, Ohio, I'm going to go over a little bit of the statistics. If you've been around in Central Ohio for any period of time, take a look at this slide, because what I want you to know is, as of 1 year ago, the average sale price in Columbus, Ohio is $229,018. Today, that average sale price is well over $243,000. The pricing in Columbus just continues to go up. That is a double-edged sword. Number one, it changes the affordability level of housing. So we do have a bit of a crisis in Central Ohio because affordable housing has become less and less available. The other thing, though, the other side of that edge on that sword is people who have purchased now have great appreciation and great equity. And I want to tell you, that's how we build wealth. We are up 9% year over year, and we don't see that trend changing anytime soon. Now, we don't have a crystal ball, so we can't guarantee the results of any marketplace, but what we can say is real estate has been steadily climbing. The values have gone up, and rents are also climbing because of the number of people that are coming into Central Ohio at any given moment. Even though we see that the pricing is at $229,000 or $243,000 this year, even though we see that, it is still the most affordable way for you to have quality housing in this city. And the thing about it is that if you go to any of the other major metropolitan areas, we are a bargain. And that's why people continue to come to Central Ohio, because we have a lot of jobs, we have a lot of industry, and our quality of life is very high in comparison. Moving forward, I want to talk to you about renting versus owning. You see, I tell people all the time, they contact us, they want to talk about renting versus owning. And I'm not going to leave this conversation just up to myself. I want to have others kind of chime in and share with you the differences. First off, I will tell you that when you rent, you're basically paying off someone else's mortgage. And when you own, you're paying your own mortgage, or you're paying your own housing cost off. Eventually, you will get to a point to where your own cost is zero. The only thing you'll be paying are your taxes and your insurance if you hold on to your home long enough. If you rent, eventually you will pay off your landlord's mortgage. And that to me is a big deal, because wouldn't you rather transfer the equity or the money that is grown over time? Wouldn't you rather transfer that to your family as opposed to your landlord's family? See, this thing is how we build wealth. If any of my cohorts here want to talk to you a little bit about the renting versus owning, just unmute yourself and I'll let you guys chime in. You're on mute, Miss Yolanda.
Good morning, everybody. So renting versus owning. When I was a renter, I can honestly tell you guys that I paid more in rent than I did when I bought my home. My rent had went up. I lived on Main and Linwood, and my rent had went up to about $750. I decided I wanted to buy my home, and my mortgage is, guess what? $750. So, you know, it was really it was a no-brainer for me to say, hey, I want to buy my house. You know, so I just feel like it's very important, because now my home is worth double what it was worth when I bought it. And it, you know, if you ever need to get funds or anything like that, you can do that with your home. So it's important to me to get everybody to know that owning is wealth.
Owning
You have
is
to
wealth.
own something.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anybody else want to chime in with that in terms of owning versus renting? If you guys, any questions about that? Do you guys have any comments in the comment section? We want to make sure that you understand that there is a big difference. I want to mention one of the other differences that you really got to concern yourself with, and that is the cost. There is a big cost difference between owning and renting. For instance, I have a tenant who is currently in a property that she pays $825 per month for to own. That same property to rent would cost her $575 to own it. I mean, she pays $825 to rent it, and it would be $575 to own it. I don't know if I said that backwards or not, but that big difference, that $300 difference, is that, I mean, that's like a car payment or something. So I just want you to understand that when it comes to building wealth, if you're paying your landlord's mortgage off, you're not building wealth. If nobody else has anything else to say, or if you guys have, go ahead, I'm listening.
So Jim and I have a 19-year-old daughter who decided she wanted to move out when she graduated from high school.
A year ago, yeah.
About a year ago.
Mhm.
And she looked all over the place to rent, and rents for her for what she needed was about $1,200.
Wow.
And yeah, and there were insane rules that she had to follow, like having to have had a job for 3 years and so on and so forth. She actually found a house, and her mortgage payment is $550.
Yeah.
From
Wow.
$1,200 to $550.
That's
And
amazing.
she's 19, and she did it on her own. Anybody can do that.
Absolutely.
All you have to do is work with them and let them help you. So it is possible.
Yes.
Absolutely, it's possible. It is possible. I actually have 8 kids, as Seville mentioned earlier today, and 2 of them purchased their first homes at 21 and 22 years old. They're now 35 and 37 respectively. And so they now have owned these condominiums for more than 15 years. That's kind of crazy when you think about it, because they've not stayed there. A lot of times people feel like because they own the home, they have, because they're kind of stuck. But I want to tell you, owning the home is what brings you flexibility. It gives you options. And if you are renting, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to move to the next slide so I can tell you my story. Now, listen, I'm going to make this brief. I'm going to try to make it as brief as possible, but believe you me, it is a story. So you already know, my name's Teresa. You already know I have a lot of kids, but back in 1989, I was the single mom of 3 kids. I was 22 years old. And here's what I want you to know. I was renting on Schrock Road. And back in the day, the rent was $400 per month. Now for me, what that was is more like today, like $1,200 per month. Because at that time, minimum wage was $3.35 an hour. And I didn't make minimum wage, but all I made was $5.25 an hour, which put me right around $10,000 a year in income. Now, here's the deal. About 10 months in, you guys know what I'm talking about 10 months into being a renter and paying my rent on time, I got a notification from my landlord at Brookville telling me that I did such a good job that what they wanted to do was they wanted to extend to me another lease for me to stay in Brookville. And I thought that was fantastic. The only thing is that when I opened it up, I found out that I was going to go from 400 to 450. Now, I don't know about you, but I was expecting that if I was going to be paying more money, then it only made sense. This was my first apartment on my own. I felt like it only made sense for them to, if they were going to charge me more money, give me more stuff. Like, since I had these 3 little kids, maybe they would repaint my apartment because there were fingerprints all over the wall. Or, you know, the blinds that were hanging, maybe they would replace the blinds. Or maybe they'd give me some new appliances or some new carpet since the carpet wasn't new when I moved in. These are the things that I was expecting. So I politely called the rental office and thanked them for coming out since they raised my rent. I just knew they were going to do this stuff. And guess what they told me? The lady kind of sat back. I could just feel her energy in her chair. And she was like, Miss Barron, I just need you to know that rent goes up every year, and we don't come in and change anything. It's just the nature of how rent goes. So we want you to stay, and your rent's gonna be $450 if you pay it by the 1st, and $500 if you pay it by the 5th after the 1st. And I said, so you mean to tell me, this is a 22-year-old version, y'all, so please don't judge me. But I said, you mean to tell me that rent goes up every year and you're not going to give me anything else for it? They said, yes, ma'am. That's kind of the way it goes. I said, so in 1987, can you tell me what they paid back then? Well, it goes up about $50 every year, so it was probably $350 or $300. I said, so in 86, how much did they pay then? It was closer to $275. $250, depending on what unit you got. I said, well, why didn't somebody tell me? I mean, how much y'all paying? If we paying $275 3 or 4 years ago, and now we're paying $450, how much are y'all paying? I started thinking they might be paying nothing. And you know what? I asked them, I said, how do I get in your position? Somebody should have told me I'm in the wrong position. There's no way I should be renting anything because I don't want to pay top dollar. I want to pay the least amount. So with that said, I got angry. I got an attitude. I showed everything, all the energy I could to try to figure out how to undo this mess because I figured somebody didn't tell me what I needed to understand. So what I did was I hired one real estate agent. That one real estate agent took me to one property. I went to that one property. It was 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bath, and it cost me $35,000. Now today, our interest rates are 2.75%. But back in 1989, our interest rates were 10%. And at 10%, my payment for 3 bedroom, 1.5 bath, I now had a garage, I now had a fenced yard, cost me $335 per month. And I said, look at that. Look at God. Now who's winning? Look, I didn't know any better. I didn't have a closed mind. Here's the next thing that happened. I found a better house about 1.5 years later because I only looked at one. And this better house was on a nicer street. There was a guy I liked on that street, and I was bound and determined to get on that street. This new house was a 3 bedroom, 1.5 bath split level, and it was much nicer. People were professional. The yards were nice and very respectable. Guess what that was? That was also a mortgage from the VA, which was the same thing as my first one. I was able to buy that house for $47,500 with a 9.5% interest rate. And guess what the lesson was I learned? It was cheaper for me to own 2 of them than it was for me to own one. Now you might ask yourself, why was that? Well, let me explain to you. See, I had a mortgage from the VA on both of those properties, and the VA loaned me the money, not because I was a veteran, but because both of the properties were VA repos. I didn't know any better. It didn't matter to me who paid for the property, who gave me the money. See, here's the deal. VA gave me the money to buy both properties. And then a little thing called Section 8, which is a part of the HUD program, gave me the money to pay for the first property that I had already owned. The difference for me was it was $53 or so per month cheaper for me to have two houses versus having one. And the only thing I have to say to you is that is a lesson that I will never forget. I have not rented a property since 1989 for myself or my family. And I want you to know that if a 22-year-old high school dropout at the time with 3 kids, single mom can do it, I want you to know that you absolutely, without a doubt, no matter what, can get this thing done. Now, let's see who's coming up next. I hope I built some belief in you today, and we're going to keep this thing moving. Budget and control. Let me introduce to you Miss Yolanda Marcy Maston, because she's got a few tips, tricks, and miracles of her own that she absolutely wants to share with you. Take it away, Yolanda.
Hey guys, it's me again. Let's talk budgeting. So first I want to tell you guys that budgeting is very important. And I know that a lot of times we want to spend our money where we want to spend our money. If we have this, we worked hard for it, and we just want to go buy what we want. But when it comes to buying a home and trying to build your future, it's very important to budget. So the first thing that you want to do is start tracking how much money you bring in versus how much money you pay out. Now that's called debt to income. A lot of people don't know that. So we want you to be able to have more coming in than you have going out. When you, we say pay yourself. So I'm a tither. So if I'm going to pay tithes of 10%, why wouldn't I pay tithes to myself of 10%? So if you're giving 10% to your church, and then you can put, say, I don't know what your 10% is, but just let's say you have all your budgeting done and you have $500 left over every month after you get done paying your bills. Put $100 up, put $50 up, put something up. Start tracking your receipts. When you go out and spend something, put it in a Ziploc bag, or I know a lot of us ladies just kind of throw it in our purse. Look at those receipts. See how much money you spent on absolutely nothing. Because those $5 and $2 and $10, they definitely add up. Went through my bank account, and my husband actually spent $74 in a week going to the corner store, buying a soda. It's called, and bulk buy. We go out and we buy, some of you guys drink soda, some just drink water. But if you go to the store and you buy a water for $1.50, why not buy a whole case for $3? So it's super important to look at those things. Eat out less and cook more. We're trying to buy a house, so we are trying to save money. When you look at all of those things, you see that you spent a lot of money eating out. It's $20 a day sometimes, and you don't even realize it. If you like to go to the movies or you like to entertain yourself, that's fine. I'm not saying don't do that. What I'm saying is budget it. Put money aside in a jar, or put money aside and say, okay, this is the only money I'm going to use, and I'm going to go to the movies. I know right now we're in a pandemic still, but we still can go places. We still can go treat ourselves to a dinner, but save for it. Don't just do it out just, randomly. Oh, I feel like I want to spend $50 to go out to eat today. Don't use your credit cards. It's so easy to have that card in your hand and swipe it. Leave your card at home. If you can leave your card at home and take out a certain amount of money for yourself, like an allowance every week. This is how much you have for lunch if you know, or whatever. That's the only money that you can have. So when you look in your purse to go spend something, you're like, oh, I only got $20. I have to be mindful of my spending. And then when you are paying your bills off, so this is a big deal for me, because I actually just I'm now down to $1,500 in credit card debt because of this thing that I just did. So you have your credit cards or your car payments or your house, start paying stuff off. So I'm just going to give you guys my situation. I have like 6 credit cards, my car payment and my house, right? And I'm like, I have to start paying this stuff off. So the first smallest was my Macy's card. Well, that was $25 a month. Guess what? When it got paid off, I changed my automatic withdrawal to my Capital One from the minimum amount, and I added that $25 to it. So now it takes out the minimum amount plus the $25 that I was paying on my Macy's card because it's now paid off. Well, then when my Capital One got paid off, I took that payment and I put it towards my PNC card. So we want to try to get our debt paid off because you want to be at 30% of your debt. You don't really want to have, some people say, oh, you need to be at half of your credit. No, 30%, because you want to build your credit. So these things are very, very important because you want to buy a home. It's not just because, and in your everyday life, because then you'll start seeing your bank account increase and you're like, hey, by the time you look a couple, some months later, you're like, man, I've been putting $100 a month up. It's been this, say 2 years. Guess what? You have $2,400 in the bank and you're like, well, this is money that you weren't putting aside for entertainment. You weren't. So if you need to do something or emergency, you have a flat tire, now you have money that you have in the bank for reserve for use. Something happens in your home, you have the money. It's a big deal, guys. Budgeting is a big deal. And if you need help with it, I will help you. You can give me a call. I love doing budgeting. So
we do it for free, y'all.
And we do it for free. We do not charge.
Exactly.
At all. One last thing.
Method, right, Marcy?
What'd you say?
The roll-up method. We actually have some spreadsheets for you guys that you can utilize to deal with the roll-up method.
Definitely. One last thing that I'm going to say is be patient with yourself. Don't beat yourself up with it because it does take time. I have a buyer who I just went in contract with today. We started his process last year. He had absolutely no credit. He never had a bank account. He never had anything. I sat down and I told him, I said, give me 8 to 12 months because he had nothing. He never did anything. Give me 8 to 12 months. Let's sit down. Let me help you. I helped him we just went in contract this morning.
Yay!
So you guys can do it. It's just about staying focused, controlling your budget, and making things happen.
All right. If you guys don't have any questions, if
Someone actually has a question,
actually
Teresa.
we have a comment from the chat from Jim and Laura. They just want to mention that they split meals when they go out, which is great for budgeting and eating less.
Yes.
And we do have a question from Ashley. She wants to know if you could elaborate what kind of debts are included in the debt to income ratio and how do student loans factor in?
Okay.
That might be Sue Reichard.
Teresa, would you like me to answer that?
Please do, Sue. You guys welcome Sue Reichard. She's up next, I think. So she might as well go ahead and get started.
Exactly.
State Bank and Trust.
Welcome, Sue.
All right. Thanks for having me. Well, the bank always looks at the debt to income ratio. And when we talk about debt to income ratio, we're looking at all your debts. Well, not all of them. We don't look at childcare or we don't look at food or utilities, but we do look at your student loans, your car loans, and your minimum credit card. Now, one thing that's kind of tricky about the student loans, it depends on what type of loans you do as to how much we count. So if you're doing an FHA loan, and that's a loan that a lot of first-time buyers end up doing, FHA makes the lenders count 1%. So if you have $100,000 balance, then we're going to have to count $1,000 a month, even if it's deferred and you're not paying anything. And you say, well, that's not fair, but that's what our rules are. We'd have to count $1,000 a month. So if somebody has a large student loan balance, then it's actually better to go conventional, because if you have an income-based payment, then we only have to count what's on your credit bureau. So if you only have a $20 a month, then that's all we have to count. So that's something you definitely you want to get pre-approved before you start the process, so you know what your debt ratios are, you know if there's anything you need to do to get in line for the home buying process. And then Teresa, do you want me to just go into the credit score?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. All right. So a couple things we're going to look at. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull your credit score. And most of the time, you do have to have like about a 660 credit score, particularly to qualify for grants. There's lots of free money out there where we can get your whole down payment, we can get you grants. So when we start the process, if your credit score isn't exactly where it needs to be, we can help you with that. We have free tools that will analyze your credit score and tell you what exactly you need to do to get your scores up. But the biggest thing you can do is, if you've got a lot of your credit cards sitting out there at the limit, if you pay them down below 50%, that can make your credit score pop up 60 points in a month. The other thing is, a lot of times you just don't have much credit. So you might only have one credit card. So sometimes it's a matter of just getting a couple more credit cards and just get a payment history going. So I'm not talking about being in debt. You don't obviously want to be in debt, but you do have to get a steady payment history going.
Awesome. What kind of programs do you have, Sue? Because I do know one other thing I wanted to mention before we get into the programs. I do know that you're not just looking at one credit score. It's the middle score. So there's actually 3 separate credit scores, right? And you guys are looking at the middle.
So the 3 major credit scores, credit bureaus are Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. And we're going to throw out your high score, throw out your low score, and go with your middle. Now, a lot of people monitor their credit scores on like Credit Karma, which is fine, but be aware those are not accurate. Sometimes they're 30 points lower. Sometimes they're 30 points higher than what the bank says. So you do actually want to start your process with a pre-approval where you can see what your credit scores are, because like I said, Credit Karma and Chase and all those different apps, they're off a little bit.
Yeah, I'd say. So let's talk next a little bit. If anybody has any credit questions, go ahead and place them in the chat and we'll get them answered. We'll come back around. Sue, tell us a little bit about you and your history, because I know this lady, I'm gonna tell you, well, let me tell you, and then I'm gonna let her tell you a little bit more about her. She, I met Sue REICHARD probably 15 years ago. And when you're dealing with a lender, especially in this market, but it was very important even back then, we need a lender to be responsive to us. A lot of times lenders will go off into the abyss and you can't get them on the phone on the weekends, and they don't return phone calls after banker's hours, and they really don't want to talk to you. They just want you to turn in your documents, and then they send it off to their processing department, and they don't want to talk to you till they get back to the closing table or until it's time to get some fees. Well, I will tell you This one Sunday afternoon, I'm out here shopping clients, and my client needed a pre-approval right then and right there. I opened up the real estate book, and the first person I landed on was Sue Reichard. And I made the phone call while I'm driving and trying to navigate to the house. And I said, listen, what I need is a pre-approval. Can you get me one right now? Here's the person's information. I'm giving her all the information, social security number, date of birth, income. Here's where they are. And can you give me a pre-approval? Do you know? She said, well, hold on, I'm at my desk. Plugged in all the information. And within, I want to say, not even 30 minutes, I had that pre-approval. The client got the house. And from that point forward, I said, I know this is the gal right here. Now, at the time, she was with a whole different bank, but it was crazy because when you went into her office, you could not walk in her office without tripping over all the plaques from one end of the United States to the other. She was the #1 lender in the entire United States of America for this bank. It was unreal. So anyway, that's who you're talking to. She's an expert at what she does, and I'm gonna let her take it from there. Go ahead, Sue.
Can I interject? We do have a question from one of our guests, Shanique. She would like to know, she says, I have a secure credit card through Capital One. Should I apply for another or leave it how it is?
So good question. Generally, you want to aim to have 4 different reporting trade lines. So a trade line can be a car, it can be a student loan, it can be a credit card. So if you just have one credit card, your score's probably going to be a little on the lower side. So I would probably recommend keep the one card you have and keep the balance paid down low, but definitely try to get another card. It's going to help your score. Once you've had credit for a long time, then it's not as important to have as many trade lines. But when you're starting out, you have to get that history of making payments on time. So it is important to have more than one trade line.
Awesome.
Thank you, Sue.
Sue, you want to talk to us about your programs and some of the money?
Yes. Well, one thing Teresa said about, buying a home, and I always tell clients, I am a big believer. I bought my first house when I was 24 years old because I didn't want to waste my money on rent. And we did a VA loan. If you happen to be in the military, the VA is a great way to get in a house for no money down, because we literally had nothing. We had no money at all. So we got in our first house with no money. And ever since I became a lender, I've always had a passion for helping my clients, find grants and get into a house with very little money. So the state of Ohio has a great program, which we use all the time. It's called OFA, which is up on the screen over to the left. And you can go to the website, ohiohome.org. You can get a 5% grant, which completely covers your down payment and covers part of your closing costs. For the balance of your closing costs, Teresa can always ask the seller, or there could be other grants. So another grant that we've got coming up March 1st, there's a grant that comes out once a year. It's called the Welcome Home Grant. And it's for $5,000 for first-time buyers, and there is income stipulations on that. Also, the bank that I work at, the state bank, we have a grant that we can also use with OFA for $1,600 for closing costs. So there's lots of options out there. So if you don't have a lot of money in the bank, make a phone call. Let me run credit. If we need to work on your credit, we can. And then let's talk about down payment assistance, because there's great programs out there where you really don't have to have a lot of money in the bank.
Wonderful. Yeah.
And the good thing is too, the bank does all the paperwork on it. You do have to take like an online home buyer training, but we do all the paperwork. So that's the beautiful part. You don't have to be worried about, submitting a lot of applications. We do that all for you.
Isn't that wonderful? So there's not a whole lot of work involved for you guys. It's just only about plugging into the systems that are already out there. And just not having to come up with that down payment is a big, big deal. So anyway, anything else you want to let everybody know about the program, the cost, anything you want to throw in there? Does anybody else have questions for Sue?
We do. We do have another question. This is coming from Lashana, who is one of our guests. She asks, for married couples, should the spouse with the better credit apply alone, or should both apply even though the second spouse has bad credit or needs credit that has to be repaired?
So that's a great question. It really depends on what the debt levels are and how much how much you each make. So if the one spouse makes 65,000 a year and their credit's great, but the other one, has credit that needs to be worked on, we can look at that and see if the one can qualify with the debts on their own. So again, I encourage you to apply, and that's something that I look at and talk to you about, because maybe you might need both of you, but that's something we can work on. And like I had mentioned, we do have a credit analyzer where we can work on your credit and let you know what you have to do. But the one may be able to buy by themselves and not put the spouse on the loan. You could still put the spouse on the title, just not put the spouse on the loan.
Awesome. That is awesome. That's awesome information, because I know a lot of people want to, don't want their spouse to feel like they're not a part of the ownership. But in fact, you can be on the deed and not be on the mortgage. So there's a lot to know about that. You can also have a deed, which I know Stephanie will be talking about shortly, that transfers on death so that there's no problem with the states. So there's a lot of things to know about that. Does anybody else have any additional questions or comments about what Sue's bringing us? I'll tell you one thing. It's a phone call. You're only a phone call away for her. She will talk to you morning, noon, or night. And she will get you qualified right over the phone. Takesha, you just had an experience with Sue. Please share your experiences.
I was just about to get on and give Sue her kudos. So I closed on my duplex January 11th. It was a long process. However, Sue made it very smooth. She did excellent, and Teresa is right. Crack of dawn questions, phone calls, texts, late at night. She was there. She answered everything. She gave me upfront everything straightforward. This is what you got to do. This is what you're going to need. This is what we got to do. We got to do it fast if we want to close in the proper time. So she gave everything up front, and then she walked me through the process as well, as far as when I needed to get those things in. And I really just give her kudos. She was really there, and she answered every question, and things that were kind of, I even had questions about just the duplex in general, maybe that didn't have too much about or any questions about the loan, but maybe about insurance. She said to always keep her in the loop if I need any help after closing, that she was going to be there as well. So she was fantastic, Sue. I really do appreciate you.
Thank you.
And I have to comment too, because this is Seville Bates. About a little over a year ago, I was trying to get an equity line, and I talked to Sue, and she gave me what my options would be. And even though she recommended a different option, she also suggested one of her colleagues, who now I'd been waiting for 3 months for a response from a bank because they were so overwhelmed. but this colleague got
Broke
my
that.
stuff addressed within 24 hours. I mean, that was phenomenal. That was State Bank and Trust, and I just want to give them a heads up.
Absolutely. She
Thank
got
you.
Yeah, I want
Yeah.
to say something as well. So this is for people whose credit may not be in the position for you to be able to do it now. So about 6 years ago, I actually sat down, me and Teresa, and we put my application through Miss Sue, and my credit wasn't where it needed to be. And when I tell you, she gave me a plan, she told me what I needed to do. I did it because I had previously had a bankruptcy. So I definitely did what Miss Sue told me to do. And exactly a year later,
1 year.
I was at the closing table closing on my house. She stuck with me. She gives you some confidence. She'll
Yeah.
tell you, because sometimes you doubt yourself when it's a discouraging thing sometimes when you get told no. But we have to learn that just because you get told no, that means not right now.
Right.
It doesn't mean never.
Exactly.
So, and I just want to thank Miss Sue for sticking with me in my buying process, because I definitely love my home, and so it'll be 5 years in May that I've been here.
Something? Isn't that something? So we've had a lot of success with this lady, and I just want you guys to know that. Sue, any final comments or thoughts now that we just kind of praised,
Well, thank
really
you so much. Yeah, just don't be afraid. It's, like everybody said, if you can't do things right this minute, let's get a plan started, because you don't want to rent forever. You want to build wealth. You want to be in charge of your budget by owning your house. And a lot of clients have called me in this last year where their landlord actually sold their house.
Yep.
So you may think you're safe. You may think that, oh, it's okay, I've got a really cheap rent. But I'm here to tell you, a lot of these landlords this year, with the price of houses going up, they're selling them. And like Teresa said, they're raising rents. So, get the process started. Your payment's gonna be lower. It's gonna be in your budget. And then nobody can sell a house from underneath you. So it's one of the most powerful things you can do to help yourself financially, to grow wealth. So yeah, just give me a call. I do work all the time. So just whenever it's convenient, call me.
Give your number out, please. Give your number out.
It's 614-395-4150.
And guys, that's her cell phone number. So you can text her. If you want to text her right now, go right ahead and text her so that you can get on her calendar. She'll get back with you. But 614, I'm going to repeat it, 395-4150. She will definitely take care of you. I can assure you of that. If you're not ready, it's okay, because she's going to get you ready. That's that, and we will help her get you ready. All right. So thank you, Sue. I'm going to move it forward.
Yes.
Yolanda Marcy Maston, I want you to discuss a little bit about the buying process. This market right now is a seller's market, and now we are after COVID. So share some of that while we keep moving forward in this.
All right, guys. So the buying process, first of all, I do want to tell everybody, it is very important to have a real estate agent. Because they are going to be the one who intercedes for you through the process. They're going to be the ones who can tell you who's a better lender that fits your needs. So some people say, oh, go get a pre-approval, then find you a real estate agent. And I say, go find you a real estate agent so that you can get the best pre-approval that you can. So the first thing is our pre-approval screening, which some of you on the call, on the meeting know. I'll sit down with you and have a whole conversation, and we'll talk about credit. We'll talk about your finances. We'll talk about how much money, your debt to income. I go over those things with most all my clients. So we can find out who I should send you to. Then we send you to the lender. And they, will let you know if you can get how much money you can get. So what you qualify for, because you never want to go shopping with an agent and you don't know your power of how much you have to be able to spend. Your buying power is a very important thing, because when you put in an offer, you have to have a pre-approval. You don't want to go blind, because then if you go out and you look at a house and you love this house, it's $289,000 house and you absolutely love it, but you don't have a pre-approval, and then you find out you're only pre-approved for 220. It's a discouraging situation. So we always want to get a pre-approval first. So then we have the motto of three shopping days or less. So once we get you pre-approved, we have forms that we have signed to protect everybody. So you have your consumer forms that tell you what it means to be a buyer. You have your forms that tell you, yes, you should get an inspection. It's important. We have forms that talk about exclusive rights. So we want to protect everyone in the process. So when it's time to go shopping, this is an exciting part, but we have the motto, three shopping days or less. So if I have to go show you 10 houses a day, that's what we're going to do, as long as your time permits. So we do the keep it or throw it method. So if there's a house and you absolutely love this house and you're like, but there's 2 other houses that we have to look at, in the market that we're in today, we're in a seller's market. So you basically want to make up your mind fast, because the houses are getting, the contracts are going out, the offers are going out, and people are getting in contract very fast. So you want to say, do you love this house, or do you want to look at the next one? So if you decide, no, let's throw this one out, let's go look at the other one, and you look at the other one, and then you decide, no, I want, you want to get rid of the ones you don't want, and keep the ones that put it on a list, however you want to do it. So once we go into contract, so let's tell you, we write our contract. We have what's called earnest money. There's a lot of things that go into this contract. So the first thing we do is we write, when you find the house that you love and you're qualified for the amount, we write up the contract. We then send the contract over to the listing agent. So the listing agent sends it to their client. They go over it, and they either accept it or they don't. They can either say no, or they can counter back to you and say, okay, I appreciate your offer, but my client is proposing XYZ. You can either at that point say, okay, I'm fine with those, let's go ahead and sign, then you're in contract. Or you can say, no, I don't want to do it, and then we just continue our search. Okay. So, but once we get into contract, it's time for Mr. Jim and Laura. So we're going to, now we have a certain amount of days that you have to get inspections done. So we order our inspection. Jim and Laura are very good at getting out there very fast. Some people do 10 days on inspection. I say 7, because I know how fast they can get out and turn around. So I'm confident in doing a 7-day inspection turnaround. So I put 7 days, that we'll have our inspection done in 7 days. It is definitely up to you to do the inspection. I have to put this out there. In this market, a lot of people are waiving those inspections. We don't recommend that you waive the inspection, especially on, I just think it's very important. They come out, they do the test and inspect the property. And if it meets your needs and it's fine, everything is fine, then we just go ahead on with the contract. But if there's some things on there that you want to be fixed, which we call a remedy, if you want those things fixed, you can counter and send a remedy and say, hey, I need these things fixed in order for us to proceed. Then you have a certain amount of days to come up with what you both agree on these remedy terms. So once all of that is done, then I advise the bank, and we get an agreement. Then I advise the bank, go ahead and do the appraisal. I always tell my lenders, please don't order appraisal until I get back to you. Some agents don't do that. I do, because if that inspection comes back and you already have ordered an appraisal on this property, now you're paying for that appraisal and you're paying for an inspection, and then you don't want this house, so you've already paid for that appraisal. So I don't recommend. I always call my lenders and say, hey, please wait until I give you to go to order inspection, and they're normally like, oh, that's fine. So let me tell you the difference between an appraisal and an inspection. So inspection is where you hire someone to go out and look at the house, and it's for your knowledge. An appraisal is for the bank's knowledge. It gives the value of the property, and if it's a FHA loan, then there's things that may need to be done to the property before it can be appraised and before they will approve it. So you have to know the difference. There's a big difference. And last but not least, after appraisal comes back and everything in the world, and we're so excited because the values are met and everything is good, then we just wait for the buyer, for everything to go through with the lender, and then we close. We set a date for closing. It is, for me, the most exciting day because I love seeing smiles. So when my client gets the keys in their hands, it's like, and I just gave myself chills, but it's so exciting for me. So you go to closing, you sign about 1 million pages, and
a million and one.
1,000,001. You sign a lot of papers. A lot of them are repetitious. Be patient. It's okay, because they have to make sure. It's just enforce. It's like, this is what it is. And you get your keys and you have a home.
Yeah, and let's just talk about the difference between the world of COVID versus pre-COVID versus COVID now in 2021. You know, it's a little bit different of a shopping experience. It used to be that they would allow on vacant property that the owners and agents could all go in at the same time. We've had open houses where we've had, you know, pre-COVID, 50, 60 people coming through. You know, today it's a little different. We usually would schedule an hour for each showing so that if we were running late, we would have time. Now it's one agent, one client, 30 minutes. Yeah. And they tell you don't touch a bunch of stuff. There's always usually hand sanitizer. Mm-hmm. There's just a series of different things that we take into account. We wear masks when we're out shopping with our clients, and we encourage you to do the same thing. You know, it is a little different. Marcy, have you experienced?
Oh yeah. So I've done some before pre-COVID. I was on the seller side. And so we didn't have those worries about people coming in and out of your house and things on that nature. Now, post-COVID, since we've been in COVID, I've had a lot of buyers, and I've had some buyers who they get discouraged because they don't want to wear a mask. But everybody has to wear a mask. A lot of time I have gloves because you do get in the notes, please don't touch anything with your bare hands. So I keep gloves in my trunk. I have masks in my trunk in case my clients don't have any. I have booties for their shoes because, you know, there's a lot that we have to keep mental note on. So when we go in, sometimes I'll open all the doors for my clients. There is a half an hour. A lot of times some of them will give you 45 minutes if it's a bigger house. You can get up to 45 minutes, but I haven't had any hour-long showings since COVID. But it's a bigger experience. We've also had closings outside.
Yeah, so, drive up closings
where we have had to sit in the car, and they basically the one lady was on the phone. So she called my client and went over the paperwork with them on the phone. And then they signed, and they gave IDs. They put the IDs in a plastic bag, had sanitizer, you know, and that's how they had to do things. So it has been a different experience, but it has not stopped anything. The other thing is it really did make it a seller's market because there's, you know, the housing.
There's a lot of properties sold real quick.
Very fast. Very fast.
That's one other thing I wanted to mention. Experience matters. And when I say this, I mean this in all sincerity. There are right now 8,700 real estate agents in Central Ohio, and most of them are brand new. As I mentioned in the beginning, we've been around for 27 years. And so here's the thing, and I'm speaking about myself, but in addition, all that experience is transferred to all 11 agents within the brokerage, because we are constantly training, constantly updating, and giving them the tools that they need so that they can be very effective for their client base. The one thing I want you to know is we've written in the last week about 5 contracts. In each one of those situations, one of them had 14 other offers that came in. One of them had about 7 other offers. One of them had 3 other offers. Marcy, I don't know how many other offers were on the one that you just got in, and one had about 5 other offers. In each case, our clients, because we know how to write these contracts so that we both protect the buyer and appease the seller and the agent, with all 5 of them, we won. And that's almost unheard of. A lot of times buyers are getting very frustrated because the agents have not been trained to really support their clients and make sure that they can win these bids, because it is a bidding process at this point. That's pretty much what I have to say about that. Just know that it does make a difference if you select. You're free to choose any real estate company you want. We do this as a community service, but what I'm saying is you do need to interview the agency that you're working with and really find the best suitable service for yourselves. It goes way beyond just having a license. You need companies that have extraordinary training.
Okay, great. Teresa, got a quick question.
Sure.
For the average new home buyer, could you explain what you mean when you say hire an agent? Does that mean they have to pay for you, or could you just elaborate on that quickly?
Yeah, I'm going to explain to you guys that the agents are public servants, if you will. We are licensed through the state of Ohio, and in most cases, we are not paid directly from our buyer clients. There is something called the multiple listing, and you might have heard of that. You might know it as realtor.com or, listed property. You may have any kind of a number of terminology. However, we are paid through the cooperative. All real estate brokerages can sell, if they're a part of the cooperative, all other real estate brokerages property. It is a seller-sponsored market. Sellers give up a percentage of the value of their home, and that is placed in the cooperative. So if you have a license to sell in the state of Ohio, there is already an agreement that says that the buyers don't really pay, the sellers pay, and they pay to have the agents share and cooperate with each other on the grandest and most broadest part of the market. So buyers are not normally paying. We do have what's known as an administration fee. It is a small fee, and it is at the end of the closing process. And most buyers don't even recognize it. And it is to take care of all of the compliance issues that we've come over in the last, I'd say, 10 years. So compliance is a really big thing, and we are required to maintain your records for 5 years. So that's what you need to know, but you're not coming out of pocket, and that's good news for the real estate agent, but you do get all the professional assistance and advice. I would never recommend that you just call the sign number, the yard sign number, because they represent the person who owns the home. And what happens is, it's just like in a court of law. What you say will be used against you. So, all right. So let's move on. Marcy, unless you have anything else to say. Okay, so guess what we're going to talk about? I think our next guests are our inspectors who have been doing a phenomenal job. We've got people who have been on this call who have actually utilized their services. Every agent on this call that sold something with Take a Look Real Estate Brokers has used their services. So I'm going to let them speak to you about inspections. This is Laura and Jim Troth, and they're the owners of Habitation Investigation. They're located, I think it's 15, what is the address on Broad Street? 1515, what is it? I can't hear you. We got to unmute you. Let's unmute. How do we do that? Hang on, guys. Let's see if we can unmute. I don't know how to unmute you. You guys got to unmute you. Got it?
There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
There you go. Yay.
1015 East Broad. It's right
All right.
beside the Red Cross.
All right. Take it away.
So we are a family-owned business, not a franchise. We started it in 2002. Kind of like to talk to the presentation that you showed earlier about the Rich Dad, Poor Dad. When we started the company, Jim's dad was very much that mindset that you work for somebody else. And I grew up in Appalachia, and anytime my parents ever got money, it was spent immediately. They did not know anything about a budget. So it's very much something that's passed down that you have to unlearn. So these guys do a very good job of teaching you how to budget and how to get that house that you want. And to that, we are actually a one-stop shop, kind of like they are. So we can do different kinds of ancillary services, and it makes it so much easier for you guys for scheduling. Jim and I are both former social workers, and we love reformed social workers. And this makes it nice. We can help people, and we can see that what we do makes a difference for them in one of the largest purchases of their life. So do you want to?
Yeah. When you find a house, you know you want the house, you like it, and during this time you're excited, you're also nervous as well. You don't want any surprises. So what we do with the home inspection, we come in and we give it a good look over. We're there like 2, maybe 3 hours, depending upon the size of the house, and we'll get all kinds of information for you. That way you know exactly what you're getting into. And there's never a perfect place. That is very important to know. There's never a perfect place. And usually things they come across, a lot of them just small things that could be bigger things if ignored. So you will learn all kinds of things just those few hours that we are there. And then, as I talked about, you can use a report to negotiate to get things repaired. All depends upon the purchase agreement that you wrote up with. We'll take a look. Yep. And then Laura always likes, because we're thorough. Our reports are, they're definitely not short, but they're not crazy long either. But the report, most things are just little maintenance things, and you can use that report as you call it your honey to-do list to take care of it down the road. Because most of the things they're not tragedies. They're just things you want to get taken care of.
Right. So some of those extra services that we offer are things like a sewer scope. And we really recommend this for a house that's over 20 years old. If you have a cast iron waste pipe, that's indicative of one that's old, and we see a lot of issues with those. Or if the house is vacant because you don't know what's going on with that because no one's been in it and using those lines for a bit. Mold testing is another one. If you have someone that's disclosed water issues, burst pipes, it's a good thing to get the mold test done. If we do an inspection and we find water intrusion, that's another good time to get it done. Or if you have someone in your family that has medical issues, people that have had organ transplants can't be around mold, people that have asthma have issues with that. So we've done a lot for people that have family members with medical issues. So radon is another one.
Yeah, radon is naturally occurring. It's everywhere. It's outside in the fresh air. So unless you're really concerned about it, there's no requirement you ever get a house tested for radon. I'm aware of. It's just there. We can do that as well if you want.
And here's the map that the Ohio EPA has. The red is the area that we live in with radon. If you want more information on radon, a good resource is to do a Google search for Citizen's Guide to Radon by the EPA. And that'll tell you a lot about what you need to know. We do a lot of water testing on wells in the country, not as much in the city because obviously you're on city water and that's not an issue. We do find that when we have tested well water in the country, if they have some type of a filtration system, that we have come back with stuff in the water that they've needed to redo that system and make sure that it was functioning correctly.
And then, yeah, with the inventory so tight, some people are trying to build houses, and that's a process just in itself. But we can inspect those as you know, also when they're really done.
And your agent will help you with that.
And like I said, no house is perfect. Usually when you do the inspection, you've already talked to your agent about maybe what things might be your I guess your limit
Skill set.
Yeah, what you're good at. Because if you're good at electrician, you may not care about the electrical panel. You can take care of it yourself. So kind of tell your skill set. Maybe, hey, I don't want to ask for any repairs or anything that's below $1,000.
I've heard that too.
Yeah, whatever you decide upon. And there's our contact information. Oh, we do have a podcast. If you want to listen to random stories and the information regarding
Home inspections.
home inspections. Teresa was on there one time, great guest.
Look her up.
We're kind of getting, iHeart Radio started carrying
Carrying
us.
us.
Yeah.
So Standing Out in Ohio is the podcast. Our website is Home Inspections in Ohio. There is also a first-time home buyer's guide on there if you want to check that out. And then the number's our office number. Give us a call if you have questions.
All right. Let me see if I can get our screen back.
Hey, Teresa, say
Okay.
something, Jim and Laura. I just went with you guys, habitation investigation for my inspection. And James Haynes, I think that was his.
Yep.
He is wonderful. He was
you.
very, I'm a very detailed person. When it comes to things like that, I want to know, like you said, it may even be small things, but it's good to know those small things because even when it's time to negotiate, are deal breakers. And then some things it's like, okay, I can go on ahead and deal with myself maybe afterwards. So if it's not a deal breaker, it's good to know, okay, what am I up against so that I can get those issues fixed. And when I did my initial inspection with him, it was like I probably could have started doing inspections because that's how detailed he was and he explained everything to a T. So I really do appreciate James.
Oh, very nice.
We will
thank
let
you.
him know. Thank you.
Yes. And I did inspection years ago. It's good for everybody to know kind of what their skill set is. I did inspection with one guy, and this foundation for this house was coming in like about a foot. A lot of people were freaked out about this. This buyer did not care. When he was in college, he used to, for work, he would raise up houses, rebuild the entire foundation, then put the house back down on top of that new foundation. This was a weekend project for him. He didn't care.
Wow.
Yeah. And we
Never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah. Good turnaround. You guys are quick.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we guarantee to have it open within 48 hours, which
Nice.
gives you a lot more time to look at the report, discuss it with your real estate agent, and figure out where you want to go from there.
Well, that is awesome. If you guys have any questions about what Laura and Jim do, I mean, Laura is always the voice, and then Jim is out there in the field talking to, he has several different inspectors that are out there. Laura, you need to make me host again.
Working. There you go.
So I can share the screen. Thank
You're
you.
good.
You're good.
But they're always out there helping us to make sure that we are, we're making a difference in terms of make sure that people get quality property and that they're not just in a situation, we're not just in a situation where we're buying blindly. Those repairs are critical. Now, Takesha, you talked a little bit about them making you very much aware, but we had a whole list of things. And see, we're not going to encourage you to close on a property when we make a deal that says that they're supposed to make the repairs. We're not going to encourage you to close the deal. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Takesha?
Yeah. So It was about a couple of months ago when we started, about November, the process started, home buying, getting the duplex. And once we got the inspection, that was our way to see exactly what needed to be done. And so we did negotiate as well. They said, okay, these are the things that we will get fixed. We had a long list. It is an older house, so we do expect, like they said, to have some issues. And then when it came time to closing, they didn't fix a lot of the things. And this was a couple of days before closing. We noticed it, sent something over to the sellers, and we still didn't hear from them until about closing day when we're at the table. We had to kind of wait a couple of hours so that we can kind of negotiate to see, okay, well, these things weren't done as we done. And so we had to hold some money in escrow so that those items can be fixed. If they're not fixed within a certain amount of time, then all the funds will be released to me so that I can fix those issues. But Teresa was adamant just to not let me sit out, to dry and have me deal with those large issues that needed to be done. We were going to be compensated one way or another. So it was good to have an inspection to see exactly those items that needed to be done.
Yeah, exactly. And you want to give them the update and how it all went down. So ultimately we did close it. Like we made them wait 2 hours until we got the exact right paperwork. And then we got $7,000 in an account, $5,000 to you, or $2,000 to you, $5,000 in the account. Now go ahead, I'm gonna let you finish.
Yeah, so we had to put $5,000 in escrow, like Teresa said. $2,000 was basically given in cash or a check to me. And they had about 10 days to make the corrections. If they are not done, then all the money is released to me so that I can make those repairs. And I think yesterday was the 10th day and some of the repairs still wasn't made. So we are still dealing with that, but we will more than likely be getting the money released to me.
Yeah, and what we want you to know is that a lot of the rehabs, there's a lot of rehabbing going on in Columbus, and the homes are, 125 years old. So it's very important when you're buying a rehab property that we get them inspected and we identify the issues up front. We don't want to find out on the back end. And a lot of times the sellers are not even from the state of Ohio. Like they may never have seen their home. They're just the investors who are in the properties, paying for the reinvestment of the property so that they can make their return on their investment. So that's important for you to know. Everything that looks nice may or may not be nice. We need to go through the process. And in Takesha's case, I think we actually spent a total of about 15, 20,000. That's how much the seller had to put out in order to get it done. So that's what you want to know. I think, okay, so Jim and Laura, they actually came back and re-inspected too, guys. They re-inspected to let us know what was good and what wasn't good.
I was thinking, all right, if she paid for our inspection, then he got $15,000 worth. That's a good return.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not playing with them.
That's a heck of a good return. Yeah.
We represent. We definitely represent.
Yeah.
Hi, Josh. I see you on the screen. Anyway, let me move you guys forward to the next thing. So this young lady that's coming up, we want to give you the whole process. This is Stephanie O'Brien. She has been one of our backbone supporters since we got into the whole It's Time to Own It and really working with communities. I've never had a problem getting her to support our whole effort. It doesn't matter if it's a radio advertisement, if it's, training, if it's getting us resources for our folks. She's always there. So Stephanie, are you around?
I'm here.
Yay.
Yay. First of all, you guys, I'm going to be your favorite person if you get to me, because that means we hit the closing table. That means Sue did her job, which she is amazing, and the agents did their job. I'm the person you want to see. I'm the person you will see to get your keys. And they're correct. There's a lot of documents, but before I go through title, I kind of want to tell you my story because it's a little bit different than Marcy's and Teresa's. I wasn't smart enough to buy my first house in my 20s. I bought my first house at the age of 37. I had 1.5 years sobriety. I had no idea what I was doing. I had a 580 credit score. My best friend told me, you'll be able to buy a house. I said, there's no way I'm going to be able to buy a house. So I found a lender. I didn't know Sue yet, but I found a lender. He said, Stephanie, it's going to be ugly. It'll take a long time, but you're going to get your house. So I found a house on the west side of Columbus that had been a rental. But being in real estate and title for 15 years, I had known that, you know, the bones were good and it just needed, you know, just a little bit of cosmetic work. So I bought that house for $130,000. I bought it FHA. I brought $760 to closing because we had $3,000 in seller paid closing cost. At that time, I maybe had $1,500 in the bank. About 2 years later, right? So I didn't have to pay capital gains taxes. I sold that house for $170,000 with only putting $8,000 into it. With that money, I bought my next house. I am now on my 5th house. I can't even remember. I'm on my 5th house, and I actually just went through the buying process through COVID. So I can tell you the importance of inspectors, because when I bought my home, I used my inspector who was a friend, and they missed that they piped the sewer up to the city Columbus on a broken sewer line underneath my crawl space, which is impossible to enter. So the first quote on that I got was $41,000 to repipe the whole thing. As a single mom of a 5-year-old, finding out that I hired the wrong inspector when I got into the house, getting a week in there with sewage coming up the basement, and it's a $290,000 house, I freaked out. So what I did is I went back to what I didn't do is my agent did not, and it wasn't a take a look agent, did not inform me that there's a camera you can put through the sewer and find that out before you buy. They also, so what happened is after about a month being here, I ended up spending about $8,000 to fix it. So not hiring the right inspector cost me $8,000. But I do want to tell you, I'm now 46 years old, and I've taken my equity from every house and put it in the next house. And now, you know, being 46 years old, 5 houses later, everybody told me I couldn't do it. I have 8.5 years sobriety now. I'm in the house of my dreams. So if anybody tells you can't do it, tell them to kiss your butt and call Take a Look, because it might not be an easy process, but it's so worth it, because once you get your first house, you just keep moving up the ladder. With that being said, the title company is probably the best place to be for closings. We do things a lot differently now due to COVID, so I kind of want to get that out of the way. It used to be, you know, agents came to closing and sellers and buyers, and we had a happy round table closing. Now it's a little more like Teresa and Marcy said, we do a lot of closings in the car. We do a lot of closings outside. We do a lot of, you know, either FaceTime or phone. If they're in a nursing home, I do a lot of FaceTime, you know, because a lot of nursing homes are on lockdown. So title companies have gotten very, very creative on closings a safe way. So don't ever worry about that. We all wear gloves and, you know, our masks. So it's a very clean environment, safe environment. And we do split closings now. We only do buyers one side, sellers one side. So we don't, you know, get everybody together. And then important things to bring to closing. First of all, if you're married, bring your wife or your husband, because if they're not there, you don't get your house. I don't care if you haven't talked to your husband in 20 years, he still has to be there. Ohio is a dower state, which means your husband and wife has to sign off on the mortgage, stating that you understand you're taking out debt. So that's very important to bring your wife or your husband. Number 2, bring a valid ID. I had somebody a couple of weeks ago bring me a expired driver's license. And I had, you know, the lender had made her go renew her driver's license because it was expired. Nobody thinks about that. So those little things, a lot of lenders require 2 forms of ID. So you have to bring your social security card and your driver's license. Also, don't bring cash. No money, no pennies, no dollar bills. Title companies only take cashier's checks from $1,000 to $10,000. If it's under $1,000, you can bring a personal check. Anything over $10,000 has to be wired to the title company. So another thing you should always bring is your questions. A lot of people are very, very nervous when they get to the title or to the closing. I know with me, if you're a first-time home buyer, I spend extra time on the CD and the mortgage and all the important documents so you understand, you know, what type of loan you have, what your payment is, you know, the first due date and all that stuff. You'll probably sign about, I think I counted them the other day, 140 pages at closing, especially if you're doing a grant program like OFA, which is a great program. And they, yes, you can bring your birth certificate too instead of your social security card. I just saw that question. But basically, and talk a little bit about deeds. If you are married, I know my title company on every deed makes it a survivorship deed. If the title company does not have the survivorship lingo in the deed, you can have them write it in at closing. That is so, so, so important, because especially now with the pandemic and COVID and everything crazy going on, we had somebody a couple months ago who was not in a survivorship deed, and the wife died of COVID. So now we got a husband that's got to put a house through probate. Agent didn't do a preliminary title search, sent me the contract saying, hey, we want to close this. We can't close it. It's got to go through probate because we didn't, whoever title company closed that did not tell them to put the lingo in to make it a survivorship deed. If that happens, it has to go through to probate, and that can take up to 2 months to 6 months. And that's important to know also. What else, Teresa?
I think you covered most of the parts and pieces. It's just a matter of when you get to the closing table, you will you'll just be ready to expect to sign a lot of paper. Make sure that you don't wire funds out, because there's been a lot of wire fraud with all the online stuff. Unless you've actually spoken to the title company, this should be a clue. If you get an email that says wire out of state anywhere, then you know that that's fraud. There's a lot of fraud that looks really real, and I've literally seen an agent have their client, they received a wire and they wired off $28,000 to some bank in New York for a closing that was taking place in Ohio. Don't wire anything. Don't do anything with odd emails that come to you, because there are people scamming through email. I just want you to know. Stephanie, maybe
Absolutely. I'll elaborate on that. About what was it, about 4 or 5 years ago, the government got involved in the closing process and decided, because people were we used to be able to bring up to $1 million in a cashier's check. Well, 1 or 2 bad apples took a picture of the check, and by the time they brought it to closing, it was obviously null and void. So what the government decided is anything over $10,000 needs to be wired. Well, the problem with that is wire fraud is up 400% due to 2 bad apples. So we've had, every time you get wiring instructions, if you ever get a revised wiring instructions, it's fraud. But always call the title company when you're at the bank. Never not call them. I had one of my clients, it was a cash closing wire, $120,000 to another title company. Thank God it wasn't mine. And the title company has no insurance on that. If you wire it to somebody else, that money is gone. There is no way to get that money back. So I don't think anybody wants to lose their hard-earned money wiring it somewhere, in another country. So just be sure to be careful. Also, I like to talk about closing etiquette a little bit. A lot of people come to closing with, they're scared and they're nervous. And just remember, when you get to the closing table, take a very deep breath. You've already done all the hard work. The hard work is the inspection and finding the house. And remember, these realtors really are public servants. They're the only people I know that'll go out and show 40 to 50 houses to somebody without getting paid until you get to the closing table. So think about that when you buy a house. They're so important, and they're important. If they can't be at closing, have them on the phone, because if you have questions that I can't answer, they're great to ask questions to. Sue is, you know, once you get to the closing table, I have a lot of people get nervous. Just remember, that's the finish line. As soon as you sign all those redundant documents, you get the keys, and then your dreams come true. So
yeah,
that's all I have, Teresa.
yeah. Does anybody have any questions for Stephanie? If you do have questions for Stephanie, holler now, because we're getting ready to move on to the next segment, and we'll be telling you how you can live mortgage free. So you don't go anywhere, because Takesha and I got a lot to say about that.
Very quickly, there is a question, and this is from me, Seville. I was a cash buyer on my last transaction, and
Okay.
I was faced, down to making a decision on the closing statement, whether I was going to pay taxes on the property or pay for a title search. Could you speak to how important a title search is?
Oh, it's so important. So if you're buying a property, the title company will do what they call a title search. What that will do is show any liens or encumbrances on the property. So, for example, we have so many deceased people in title right now. I had one that closed with a different title company in Columbus that my agent called me on. Well, the buyer was so excited, put an offer on the house. Title company got busy, did not do the title search before a week before closing. Well, they had a deceased person in title, and it wasn't a survivorship deed, and it had to go through probate. So what happens? That poor buyer wasn't going to close a week later, and they ended up closing 3 months later if they ever closed. So also, it's important to check water and sewer on a property because they follow the property. Title searches are so important because if you get a deed that, 3 transfers ago, it transferred the wrong way, that's called a cloud on title. If you don't have a title search done and buy title insurance, and Aunt Sue from 1982 says she owns the property and can prove it, Aunt Sue owns the property. So
Right.
there's a title search is normally about $200. Title insurance policy is provided by the seller, especially in Central Ohio. Those are the 2 most important things, obviously, besides homeowners insurance and the inspection that you need, because it'll save you. People always think it's not going to happen to them. Well, it's the people that say that ends up happening to. And to kind of, add on to the investor thing, if you're buying a flip, a lot of times it's important to do a title search. More important to do a title search because a lot of times those either have back taxes, or they could have a mechanics lien, or they can have, delinquent water and sewer bills. So it's always important to get a title search done, and also be sure to buy a title insurance policy.
Yeah, and
Thank
I've
you.
had a lot of people try to escape the process of going through the lender process and want to do things like, maybe do a land contract. And part of the reason why we have the real estate industry and mortgages is because it protects the buyers who are purchasing. It protects them if we do not, if they're not on a land installment agreement, that whereas the previous owner can actually borrow money, default on that money, and have liens on the property. So, this stuff is serious. There's no shortcuts. In other words, we don't want you taking shortcuts, because you could end up with a property with $100,000 worth of liens after you paid it off to the seller.
Can I say one quick story about what happened to me yesterday with somebody that bought a property without doing a title search?
Yep, go ahead.
I have one of my investors that bought a property at a sheriff's sale in Delaware. Sheriff's sales are tricky. People think it's great to get houses from them, which, they could be good. But what people don't realize is you want to do a title search before. This gentleman bought a house in Delaware in October 2019. Sheriff's sale said, oh yeah, it's free and clear. We're good. We got all the liens paid. Well, he just got a letter that there's an IRS $75,000 lien from the previous owner. He called me. He said, what can I do? I said, you got to call a real estate attorney. That's another reason. You don't know. My favorite, you don't know what's on title. And you know what? Sometimes sellers don't know. They might not realize that child support liens or anything like that could be on title. So it's always important to do a search to see what needs to be paid off.
Yep, there it is. There it is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
You're welcome.
We are going to hang tight because we're going to finish up here with just a couple more things. And if anybody has any questions, the panelists can answer their questions by the time we get done with this. We've got a couple more things we want to talk about. And these are really things that can just improve your quality of life. And I'm going to start it out. Takesha, you can unmute yourself, because you and I are going to have this conversation with the group. We want you to know that it is possible to eliminate your housing costs. And how that is, well, first let me let you know what Takesha bought. Takesha, go ahead and share and talk about what's happening on the second unit of your property.
Okay, so my name is Takesha. I am a mother of 3. I am married. However, my husband currently lives out of state, so I am acting as if I am a single mom. So anybody can do it. I just bought a duplex. Like I said, I just closed on the 11th, first time home buyer. And I thought, okay, what I want to do, why not kill 2 birds with 1 stone? I wanted to be a homeowner, but I also wanted to find a way to create passive income. I wanted to be financially free. I wanted to build generational wealth, set my children up, be able to, set aside money for college, school, whatever they decide to do, and also get all my bills paid. If not all of them, then a lot of them. So what I did was I purchased a duplex. On the top level is a little bit larger. That's where me and my family would be. And then on the second level, which is the bottom level, I will be renting it out. So the money that I get for rent, I will be using to pay my mortgage. Any other money that I get, I can pay off car payments using that money. Money, like I said, set aside for savings, or money in my pocket, vacation, whatever I want to do with it. So I thought, just what not good way to start that. And I wanted to kind of learn how to maybe do a little bit of management, property management. I am an agent with Take a Look as well recently. So I wanted to get a little bit of knowledge on that. And it's a duplex, I feel, is a good way to start small, because you can do it as well with multifamily, but duplex is small. I can be there, close by to the tenant if they were to need help or anything. So that's the route that I wanted to take.
And we have another agent that is actually not on this call today, but her name is Chantel, and she actually bought a single family property. She's also, we call her the trucking realtor, so she's always on the road, and her specialty in real estate is property management. She was a property manager prior to becoming a real estate agent. So she just carried that over into real estate. And she has a house not too far from Takesha, right on Fairwood. It was a 5-bedroom ranch, and it was the smallest 5-bedroom I've ever seen, because it was 5 bedrooms. No, it's 4 bedrooms and 1 bath. 4-bedroom, 1-bath ranch, completely remodeled. Now, what Chantel has done is she purchased the property for $125,000 about a year and 3 months ago. That property actually had an upstairs with 2 bedrooms, and then a downstairs with 2 bedrooms and 1 full bath. It was on a slab, and it is still on a slab, with no basement, a kitchen, and a living room. So it was basically bedrooms, kitchen, living room, 1 bath, no garage. Well, what we've done is we converted her upstairs bedroom, one of the upstairs bedrooms, the smaller of the 2, to an owner's suite bathroom and dressing area. And then the bedrooms that are downstairs on the main floor are guest bedrooms set up for Airbnb. And now she is able to rent the property. They're rented short-term rentals, usually with the same continuous guests. They're renting it at $50 per night plus cleaning fees, and they're professional folks screened by the short-term rental sites like Airbnb and VRBO. A lot of them are traveling nurses. They are doctors. They are students, medical students, and things like that. She gets to pick and choose, but right now her mortgage payment is $800 and some per month, and her cash flow on her property is running about $2,500 per month. It pays her car note. It is about 3 times the amount that she'd normally get, probably $1,000 a month, so 2.5 times what rent would be. And she keeps her space. And because the people are screened and vetted, there's never a problem with collections. There's never a problem with disrupting. And it's just an amazing thing, because she's not paying that mortgage. The short-term tenants are. And so I just want you to know that those possibilities exist. Now, on another note, you can become an investor and a homeowner at the same time. You can purchase up to 4 units at using an FHA loan, and only have to come up with 3.5% down. And I believe, and Sue, you can correct me if I'm wrong, OFA will make the down payment on a 4-family just like they'll make the down payment on a single family. Now you can imagine if you have 4 units, you're going to be making 4 times, 400% of what you're paying in terms of the mortgage at minimal. Because as we talked in the beginning, rent is always, almost 100% of the time, 25 to 40% higher than what the mortgage is, the base unit on the mortgage. So I just want you to know that it is a fantastic way. Even if you are a first-time home buyer, you can become an investor at the same time if you want to be mortgage free, and you can literally have all of your housing costs, your not only your housing costs, but also your car note, your utilities, and your maintenance on your home paid for. One other thing I want to mention, a lot of times folks are concerned about the cost of maintenance, but there are things called home warranties. And I just got a note from Jim telling me that his home warranty, he does have a home warranty company that goes along with habitation investigation, and they will take care of up to 4 units with that home warranty. Because they've inspected it, they already know the condition of the house, and you would not have to deal with, whether or not there's a question as to whether or not these were pre-existing conditions. So that's another reason and another way for you to be able to, sort of cover yourself in the process of becoming a homeowner. I myself have been buying property since 1989, as I mentioned when I told you my story. The thing I want you to know is that first property that I purchased, I still own it today. The current tenant has been in the property 15 years. I've tried to encourage her to buy a house because that's what I do. I don't want her to necessarily maintain or stay in the property as a tenant. But in that 15 years, what I will tell you is I put a mortgage on it in 2006, and this is now 2021. She has paid the entire mortgage, and now the house has no mortgage on it. And she doesn't have any more rights. And unfortunately, I just raised her rents because I hadn't raised it in 14 years. So I just raised her rents. She's still well below market. But what I'm saying to you is that just owning the property is a whole different position than, and being able to live mortgage free. If I wanted to, I could go back to my house. She would get displaced, unfortunately, because she hasn't made the decision to actually own her own home. Now I see some questions here. Let me see what we got going on. Can somebody read the chat here for me? Oh, let's see here. Yeah, it is, Jim, you're right. It is a mindset. It's 100% mindset. And that's kind of why we started in the beginning with talking about, the mindset of the wealthy versus the mindset of the poor. We want to everybody's got this opportunity. It's not just receiving the knowledge, it's the application of the knowledge. So we're here to help you to get that done. Now, does anybody else have any questions Can I answer anything else about becoming an investor and a home buyer, first time home buyer, or, you know, renewing the fact that becoming a homeowner? Are there any questions? Takesha, do you have anything? And does anybody else on the panel want to talk?
Yeah, I guess I do want to mention, some people may think, well, if I buy a multifamily, does that mean that I have to stay in it for a while, or how long? And it depends on what loan that you take. Like you said, most of the time, the multifamily is a FHA. And if you're using the home buyer down payment assistance, you do have to stay in so long. And if you don't, you just got to pay some of the money back.
Frozen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I think you have to stay in about a year or two, and then before you can actually make it a full investment where you can have, you know, two tenants on both sides, and then you can go along and still look for your dream house or look for another single family if you wanted to. So that's why it's so nice to actually get into a duplex, because you can kind of, if you wanted to, save up some of that money too for a down payment if you wanted to for another home, and get like a conventional loan maybe at that point, but still receive your passive income with the investment that you purchased.
Right, exactly, exactly. So just know that there are options out there, a lot more options than what you might think, and we can get very creative. It's about knowing the options and knowing the right people so that we can put it together, and that just all comes with experience. You know, you've got a very experienced crew. As you heard, Laura and Jim have been around since 2002. Sue Reichard, she's been around since, I don't know, 2000. And, you know, I've been around since 1994 doing this thing. You know, my assistant, the one that opened the webinar, has been around since 2003. We all have specialties and additional knowledge, additional training, and we're here to use it and share it with you so that you can use it for yourself and eliminate this thing about dependency and really work towards wealth building and self-sufficiency. That's what we preach. That's what we talk about.
Can I make a comment?
Go ahead.
Just very quickly, because I know we've been on for a while. I just want to say, we are now in tax season. We are also all getting stimulus checks, hopefully. And there is an opportunity there that a lot of people may not be taking. An opportunity that if you get a lump sum, if you combine your resources with other folks that you know and trust well, to pool your money and to take the opportunity to hire an agent and find some good properties on the market. I will just say that, as I stated, I am actually a second-time homeowner. The last time I purchased, it was a bit of a different market in 2015, but I did purchase an auction property. It cost me $45,000. And Stephanie, I purchased on the west side of Columbus. I know a lot of us are kind of dead set on where we won't purchase and where we prefer to purchase. But this house, absolutely, it was a repo from the bank, unfortunately, for a family that lost it. However, it had virtually not a lot that had to be done other than painting. The mechanicals were in perfect working condition. They were newer roof, newer windows. Basically, I stepped into a redone house, and for $45,000, I will tell you that now the homes are selling on my very strip and block for $160,000. You know, I pay literally between my taxes and my insurance and my home warranty, $211 a month. And I'm 62 years old. So, you know, I'm not trying to get out here and do a whole career. I work from home virtually with Take a Look Brokers. And so I'm just telling you, it can be done if you really do strategize.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Seville, that is so wonderful that you're sharing that information. You know, we We let people share as they desire. Let's keep moving forward, y'all. I want to give you the guide and what you need to do if you're ready to get started, if it's something you want to look further into. What we do these days is, what you need to do is text us, and let me move to the next screen. This is the Take a Look team. As of a year ago, we have 5 additional people that are on the team. We just haven't had a chance to update this. And what I want to tell you is, this is how you get in contact with us. You can text that 614-778-8503, or you can call that number at 614-778-8503. You can also email. What we tell you to do is to get on the calendar. We will send you a calendar link. That calendar link allows you to choose a space that's convenient for you, and we will get you connected to all of the parties that need to be involved with you getting started with the process. It's never too soon to get started. I just want you to know that. And we make it as convenient as possible. We will be ready for you and waiting. And here's where we are. We're at the point in our webinar where if you have questions, we want to get your questions answered. If you would like to get the links to all of the people that are that have participated today, then I want to make sure you get those links. They are all resources. They are all willing to help you through the process. And we are so excited about the potential for 2021. We made it to the other side of 2020, which was just a challenge for us all. So let me ask you, do you have any questions? I see we got somebody having questions in the chat. Feel free to post them. I see Seville, thank you for putting that out there, because this is just the time to get your questions answered. I'm going to pause for about 15 seconds. If I don't see any questions, if you don't type them in the chat, then don't be shy. Get in touch with us via the cell phone 614-778-8503. Text us, and then what we will do is we will respond back to you with a calendar appointment. But don't be shy and don't wait. I will assume there are no questions. Go ahead, I'm listening.
I don't have a question, but I do have a statement that over the years, we have talked to and met thousands of agents.
Yes.
And the turnover rate, it seems, for agents when they first get their license, about 30% of them are gone within a year.
Yeah.
The fact that you and your group have been around for so long is a testament that your knowledge base is going to be a lot higher than most other agents that are out there.
And not only that, but you would be amazed at how many agents we've heard complain that they're not getting contracts. And for you guys to be batting 100% is amazing in this market. So that says a lot about you guys too.
Yeah. We've had a lot of agents, they can't get their offers approved.
Right.
But you guys have all 5 go through?
Yeah, that's huge.
Amazing. Yeah.
So definitely give these guys a call.
Absolutely. I do see a question from Danitia. I think it's Danitia. I might be really messing up your name. I apologize, honey. I really am so sorry. But here is the question. If you're approved for a certain amount and the home is less, can you use the remaining amount for home improvement? Now, I can give you the answer to that, or I can let Sue give you the answer to that. But I will tell you, from my perspective, you can use 0 of the additional dollars. What you have to do if you want to do home improvement is a loan called a 203K. There are other loans that are loans that'll get you into a rehab situation, but it's not, you cannot take additional money that might be remaining in your lending authority ability. You cannot take that additional funds and apply it towards any of the repairs that need to be done. So hopefully, thank you for your question, and hopefully that answers your question. What you can do, if once there's equity in the property, is you can always get an equity line. You probably are going to be waiting about a year on that, or you can do a 203K. Those are the broad options. There are other options, but that's generally the options. Any further questions? Because I'm going to close it out. I'm about to close y'all right on out of here. I'm so excited. So any further questions? Okay, well, I'm assuming there are no other questions. And what I wanted to tell you, I hope you've been inspired. I hope you have been informed. I hope you feel that we have given you just extraordinary information. This information is exactly what you need to get started in the home buying process. What I want you to know again is that if I can do it, remember, I was the 22-year-old single mom with 3 kids. And, matter of fact, high school dropout, that's what I was at 15 years old. This is who you're talking to. I did it at 22. You heard about Jim and Laura's daughter who did it at 19 years old. What I'm trying to tell you right now is that you can get this thing done and you need not wait any more time. There's no reason to wait. Absolutely no reason. We know that rents are going up. You've got a whole team right here who will work for you. And I'll tell you, we'll work for you well before we take anything away. No money coming out of your pocket to get you started. You can believe, you can trust that we're going to take extraordinary care, that we're going to bring you all the information, and all we need for you to do is to get in contact with us so that we can get you started. Listen, don't be fearful. Don't be afraid. Understand that the only way, and one of the most successful ways to building wealth, is through the path of real estate. And with that, I just want to thank everybody for attending our 2021 event. And I know everybody on the call who has acted as a panelist. I want to thank you guys for showing up and really bringing the information to our guests. We really appreciate everything you all have done. If there's anything else you guys want to say to close it out, bye, or just say goodbye, I want you to have a fabulous weekend. It's a beautiful day in Columbus, Ohio. And guys, it's time to own it.